Hello everybody, welcome back to Sniper Ghost Warrior 3's reimagining videos from the Broken Wolf. Yours truly, the game analyst. Self-proclaimed, but I know you all agree. Thanks for joining me again, guys. This is video number 2, and we're going to be talking about one of the core pillars of our reimagined Sniper Ghost Warrior 3. And that core pillar, the first one, is survival. Now, if you remember from the first video, survival was one of the most important things to talk about because it was the way that the game was going to stand out amongst other games of its ilk, I guess we should say. And one of the biggest problems with Sniper Ghost is that it doesn't stand out enough as a tactical shooter. It doesn't separate itself from other games enough. And I believe that adding a survival element would definitely have done that. Especially since who the fuck makes a first-person shooter with sniper elements and with with sniper mechanics and with survival elements in it? No one has done that. You know what I'm saying? Or if someone has done it, they sure as hell haven't gotten the publicity that CI Games could get. So without further ado, because I'm running out of time already, let's go ahead and get right into it. Okay, so regarding equipment and operations, first and foremost, you are completely on your own, and there's only a few situations in the game where you will be able to talk to any kind of ally over the radio. In this game, you do a lot of talking over the radio, a lot of getting contacted by allies in the region, and I think that for the emotional weight of the narrative and for the emotional weight of the gameplay, it's better if the player is more isolated and alone. So in the reimagined version, you're not going to be talking over the radio as much. In fact, there are actually dead drops that you'll have to go through. Basically, you'll get a text on your little PDA laptop Kindle thing that you're always carrying around, and that will tell you to go to a certain place within the game world. You'll go there, you'll pick up the dead drop, it'll tell you everything that they have been able to gather about the target that you need to go kill. And that will be your interaction with your friends from now on. It's not going to be, they're not even really your friends, I mean, because they're not really, you shouldn't be so buddy-buddy. You shouldn't have a line to the outside world or to back to home where you feel a little bit safer when home contacts you. You should have that complete feeling of isolation. You're out here, you're alone, that's it. And that helps with the feeling of nervousness and anxiety that goes into survival gameplay. All weapons, this is the second thing about equipment and operations. All your weapons and equipment will be on-site procurement, which means that you have to find them in the game world. You start out, of course, with a basic sniper rifle and a pistol, and that should be it. That should be it. You don't have, you don't have access to buying weaponry through a laptop or anything. None of that shit. None of that, because it's much too easy in this game to, when you're running out of things, to just buy stuff up. You know what I'm saying? And you get so much money that I'm able to buy over the amount of ammunition I need. And it ends up turning into this thing where it's not really a threat to me as a game mechanic. And there should be, and since there is no threat, it's not engaging. And what that leads to is, mundane tedium. And anytime you make a game mechanic, it should never lead to mundane tedium, ever. You know what I'm saying? So if we do it this way, where all your stuff has to be either made by the player, bought by a few merchants within the game world, and you're not going to have nearly as much money as you can get in this game, or you have to just take it from your enemies. You have to actually go into certain installations, in enemy headquarters and things like that, and you have to just steal that shit. You know what I'm saying? If we do it like that, it's a lot more threatening, and the things that you get mean a lot more to you. So intel gathering and tracking is also completely on the player, and aside from that first dead drop and some very choice moments in the game that are narrative based, that's it, motherfucker. You don't get any more help to find these targets. You know what I'm saying? And the way the game does it now, it's really straightforward. You go, you use the drone, you You find the asshole and you kill him. But if you have to track said asshole down and you don't know where they could be on this map, you have to use your own knowledge and your own understanding and your own expertise as you grow in the game to find these targets, and that's the way it should be. Alright, number two, we're going to go to the second subcategory regarding survival, the first pillar of the new game plan we're going with. And that is regarding food and health. So, in our new revised and reimagined Sniper Ghost Warrior 3, the player would have to regularly eat and sleep to keep certain negative effects at bay, such as sluggish movement, bad aiming, having your scout senses dulled, making more noise when you move around, things like that. So you have to watch out for these natural necessities of life that all survival games do. This is basic survival game stuff, and it's one of the reasons why they're so compelling is maintenance. And so that's something that we would add into Sniper Ghost Warrior 3's DNA. The player can also contract several conditions such as sneezing fits, which you obviously know why. If you're trying to stealth your way around and you start fucking sneezing like a maniac, you're gonna get your ass, boot up your ass. So it's very important for you to pay attention to your player's health and pay attention to keeping him away from certain things that could be infectious or dangerous for him. There will be food poisoning in the game. You can have rampant fatigue, which can cause hallucinations. So what that means is you'll kind of see enemies that aren't there, or you'll see shadows, and you may react to certain things that aren't actually in the game world. They're just on your character's screen. Other things that may happen. You can be beset by vomiting or damage to your stamina or have a shorter health bar if you contract certain negative effects by eating certain bad foods. If you eat good foods, however, there are certain bonuses that you'll get to sleep and other bonuses to aiming and movement speed and things like that. So that's a whole nother part of a gaming mechanic that could come in with the survival pillar of Sniper Ghost Warrior 3 if it were reimagined like I'm putting forth to you. Also, there is a negative to this. Cooking food can draw enemies and other animals in the area to come in, attack the player, or put your equipment at risk or what have you. So you have to be careful about where you decide to throw your stuff down to start, chowing down. The third subset of survival will be regarding your safe houses and your missions. I already kind of explained the missions where you'll have to actually go and find dead drops that are left by people who are kind of either on your allies' payroll or are your allies, but they, for safety's sake, they stay out of the open eye of the separatists in the area. So you'll have to actually find intel on your enemies. You'll have to or your marks. You'll have to find these dead drops through. You'll get a text, like I said, on your PDA, that big Kindle thing that you have in the game. And you'll have to go to a certain area, and sometimes that area is within an enemy controlled area. You have to get in there and get the mission, and the mission may be halfway across the game world, you know what I'm saying? So you have to get out and go to that other area. Regarding safe houses, this is really fun. So the player would be able to choose from multiple locations. Let's say in one region you'll have 3 locations you can choose from. And you can move your safe house. By the way, safe houses in this game are quite large. In the reimagined game, safe houses would be much, much smaller and much more mobile friendly, because you'll be able to use your buggy, which will, like it is in the game, will make it unable to be destroyed or indestructible, so it doesn't break the game. And you can move around these safe houses from place to place. Now, safe houses can be invaded while you're sleeping, or they can be invaded while the player is away if the safe house is discovered by enemies. And how this works is, if the enemies have detected you a certain amount of times in a certain area, and it changes from area to area, it changes with enemy to enemy. Certain enemies are more perceptive, so if you're dealing with a higher caliber soldier, it only takes a shorter amount of times, maybe even one time, for them to detect you, for them to scout the area. And what will happen is that enemies will leave their HQs, and so the number of enemies in the HQs will be lowered. The problem is the number of enemies in the patrolling the roads and the woods around the HQs and are in the certain regions will grow, and so you'll end up having enemies that will can cross in the path of your safe house. If you do not kill these enemies who are crossing around your safe house, or if you just don't notice them, they can discover it, and if they discover it, they will actually take your stuff. So they'll steal all of your equipment, all the stuff that you've made yourself, all the hard work that you've put into finding these things and stealing these things from other enemies. They will actually take your stuff from your safe house and take it back to their HQ, and it's your job to go into their HQ and take it back. And if I would definitely be down for something like if we, have a certain difficulty level where if you don't get there fast enough, it's gone. You know what I'm saying? If that stuff just gets sent around in the area and you're never going to see that stuff again. I wouldn't make that the base way of doing it because it might be a little bit too hardcore for a lot of players, but I would handle it that way if the player, I would like give you an option to go into the options menu and turn that on or off, Initially, you can't have multiple safe houses, but as you go and you upload the buggy or upgrade the buggy or upgrade, your area of influence, you'll be able to actually have multiple safe houses, and we'll have them do different things. Like safe houses, as you upgrade them, will actually scan the area around them to find materials that you can craft together, or they'll actually be able to sense enemies and lock down so they can't be invaded, or something cool like that. That'd be badass. And the stuff that I'm putting forth, it doesn't seem like it would be too hard to program. It would just be like simple and or if statements for the design and the AI. I'm sure it's more complicated than I'm putting forth, but whatever. This shit is fun, so we keep doing it. Okay, number 4, regarding upgrades and unlocks. So upgrades and unlocks are focused on practicing the techniques of the sniper, ghost, and warrior skill trees like they are in the game. But in this game, in the reimagined version, we want to have certain perks that can be selected by the player as they go. So the way it works is the skill tree has several tiers on it that are blocked until the player has practiced enough techniques in that skill tree. Then they can select special abilities with the points accrued. So say if you need to unlock you need like 30,000 points in a skill tree for sniping. The more you snipe, the better sniping shots you get. If you snipe 2 enemies, if you snipe headshots, if you snipe special enemies with headshots, if you lure enemies by shooting one enemy and he's on the ground, and then another enemy comes over and you shoot him as he's leaning over his friend. If you do stuff like that, you'll get extra points, and those points can go into your skill tree. So the more you shoot, automatically your aim will get better incrementally, your breathing will get longer incrementally, and things like that will happen incrementally, and then you'll have special things that you can unlock later on, like counter sniping, which is actually a skill in this game, where you can actually in scout mode see enemy snipers fields of vision. Like, I think that would be badass if we handled it like that. Me interaction, number 5, the 5th and final subcategory to the survival pillar. Alright, so in the reimagined version of Sniper Ghost Warrior 3, if the player is detected or the enemy notices signs of attack, they will go into alert mode, and they will stay in alert mode for 1 in-game hour or 30 minutes of real time. One of the biggest things about stealth games is that they try to make it a little bit easier for you by having the enemies just kind of forget you were there. The problem is that ruins the punishment of failing to do the stealth correctly, and therefore it cushions the player so that they don't get better at what they're doing. So in the reimagined version, the enemies will stay alert for quite a long time, and they'll also slowly search the area around the center of the zone they are inside of. Enemies in alert will also travel in pairs. They will no longer just weirdly go around by themselves and make it easier for you to pick them off. If they are fired upon, they will shout to alert enemies in other areas where they're coming under attack. Other than that, we have enemies that aren't just human. There are multiple different types of enemies that are human, and we'll get into the different types of enemies as we go into the combat pillar, which is the next pillar we'll be doing. But for now, we're just going to stay on enemy interaction and how they act within the game. There'll also be enemies that are animals, like for instance, like wolves. Wolves will flank in as a pack. So instead of it just being how they run at you one at a time in the actual game. They'll run at you, you know, say there's 8 wolves, they'll run at you 4 and 4 on both sides at the same time. So it's designed to be overwhelming and scary. And the whole point is you're not supposed to fight them on the ground. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to get away from them, get some space, and snipe them from a distance, and not come up and be surrounded by a bunch of fucking wolves tearing you to pieces. Also, the way enemy animals will work in the game is that they will actually latch onto you. If they're wolves, for instance, they'll grab you from different sides and start chewing at you. Instead of this kind of like jump up and bite thing that they do, which is a really terrible animation. It's always been a terrible animation. If any developers watching this, please stop doing that with melee enemies. Don't have them go walk up to the player and do a like jump slash animation, and then they reset, and then they do another jump slash animation. It always looks fucking weird. Anyway, moving on. Enemy bears will charge the player relentlessly, and they can even flip your buggy and instantly kill the player by breaking his neck or his back. So you need to stay as far away from bears as possible, and they do have a large health pool, so it's not easy to take them down. Enemy dogs will attack in pairs of 2. So they will actually flank in 2s near you if there are 2 of them. But the biggest thing about dogs is that they're designed to alert the other human enemies in the area. So if they see you, they'll start barking. They will actually attack you, but they'll bark first, and that can alert other human enemies, and you know shit's gonna go down from there. Enemy foxes, this is actually an interesting one. Enemy foxes will steal food and equipment if the player isn't looking at them. So if you're not looking in the direction of a fox and it comes up behind you, it can actually nip your food. And that can be bad, you know, if you're away from the safe house and you don't have any other food, and you know you're in an area that isn't very abundant with it. Other than that, certain civilians will also notice the player. If you're spotted by certain civilians and enemies are in the area, they may try to report you certain civilians will they may try to report you to the enemies. So it's very important for you to stay out of the eyes of certain civilians, especially if enemy soldiers are around. If the player kills 50% of an enemy force, the enemies will become aware. So in this game, when you kill a bunch of enemies, they're just kind of like, meh, you know what I'm saying? They're like, whatever, that was that jackass over there, and oh, he's killing us. I think I actually heard one of them say that before, but they don't really do anything different. They just keep doing the same thing they've always been doing. And they run to your position if they think that's where you are. But in the reimagined version of the game, their AI will actually respond to the amount of allies they see die. They have to actually see them or hear them die. But if they do notice that they're dead, and say you knock the enemy force down to 50%, they'll become aware, and they will actually grow emboldened, and they'll push forward faster in whatever direction they believe the player is in. They'll actually throw grenades more, and they'll shoot into trees and into bushes as well. If the player kills 90% of an enemy force, the remaining enemy force becomes, and that remaining enemy force becomes aware. Some enemies will actually flee from battle, including other, say, wolves or whatever, that know that they can't take you. And that's pretty much it, man. That's all I had for the survival pillar of the gameplay, the game plan for Sniper Ghost Warrior. I hope you guys like that. Let me know what you think of my ideas. Please engage. I would love to get you guys' feedback. Please give me a like and subscribe, because I'm trying to grow my channel, and I would really appreciate that. But yeah, let me know, man. Let me know if the game I'm putting together for Sniper Ghost Warrior actually sounds interesting and cool, and let me know what you would have liked to see out of Sniper Ghost Warrior. I know there's plenty of stuff I would like to see. That's why I'm making vids about it. Alright, thanks guys. See you later.